evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Impact. If you're joining us via YouTube, SharonSDA.org, which is our website, or Facebook, or you may be just calling in. Thanks for allowing us to come into your homes, places of work, or just sharing your personal space with us. Thank you so much. Impact, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who may be joining us for the first time, this is a ministry designed to provide information, helpful resources, and coping strategies during this very trying time, during this pandemic, and also in its aftermath. This evening, we will examine the effect of COVID-19 on the educational system. Our anchor this evening is Dr. Neville Stanislaus. Yes, Dr. Neville Stanislaus. Welcome, Dr. Stanislaus.
Thank you.
She will be introducing the guest and will be leading the session. However, before she does so, our resident pastor, Pastor Dion Ryan, will pray on behalf of the session. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's pray. Almighty Father in heaven, we give you praise and thanks for another beautiful day that you have allowed us to see. This is the first day of a new week. We thank you, dear God, that we can congregate on this platform to talk about education. We have read in the spirit of prophecy that education and redemption is one. And we pray, dear God, as we explore these ideas and thoughts and issues in education, that we will see that through education we can reconnect with you. I pray, dear God, that you will bless each person on the panel, our host, Dr. Stanislaus. We pray that your Holy Spirit will take charge of every guest, Dr. Usher, Sister Dawn, Sister Diana, and all others who are on this program. We give you the praise, we give you the thanks, we give you the glory, and we thank you for our listening audience. We pray, dear God, that tonight they will be blessed. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another session of our Impact series. Today, we're going to take a look at our education and the impact of COVID-19 on our students, our teachers, our faculty members, our administrators, our parents. And it gives me great pleasure to be amongst these beautiful women who I will introduce in a few. Before we get started, I just want to give us just a brief summary of what's been happening here in New York, a brief timeline of what led us to remote learning and how we got here. New York City is home to the largest school district in the United States, with over 1.1 million students enrolled in approximately 1,866 schools, including 220 charter schools spread across this great city. It is also home to the Northeastern Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, which is also home to the largest K through 12 school system in all of the regional conferences of Seventh-day Adventists here in the Northeastern region. Within its school system, there are 17 schools, 124 teachers, and 2,000 students spread across New York State, Connecticut, and Massachusetts. Then we have the CUNY system, which is the City University of New York, and also the largest urban school university system here in the country. It is home to 25 campuses spread across the 5 boroughs, with over 275 students enrolled in its undergraduate, graduate, and professional studies programs. On March 19th, CUNY made the decision, when all of its students returned from spring break, to move to remote and distance learning. On March 22nd, the Chancellor of New York City Board of Education announced that the city public's K through 12 schools would be moving to remote learning temporarily. However, as COVID-19 pandemic spread through the system, on April 11th, the decision was made to end the school year and transition to fully remote learning for the remainder of our school year. This hasn't been an easy transition. Our parents, our teachers, our principals, administrative staff, school nurses, mental health therapists, advocates, you name it, the gamut of support in our school system, along with our students, have come together not only to talk about the resources needed to engage in this mammoth remote learning process, but also to talk about the effects that it's been having on our students, and they continue to work together. So tonight, our panelists will lead us into a discussion about their experience in remote learning and offer us some words of encouragement and tools to help us as we continue throughout the school year. Our panelists tonight, we have Ashanti Ford, Diana John, Dawn Richardson, and Dr. Lorraine Richards Usher. Ashanti Ford is one of our aspiring up-and-coming professionals, and she's a current student here in New York City. Diana John is the wife of our first elder, Elder Craig John. She's a mother of two, our adventure director, and a school teacher. Diana has taught K1 and K2 for the past 18 years. And at the beginning of this school year, she accepted the challenge and became a science cluster teacher for the first time in her professional career. Diana has also taught at the same school for the past 19 years. Dawn Richardson is no stranger to education. She's a single parent of two, born and raised in the beautiful island of Antigua. Dawn has served in our AY department, family life, children's ministry, education, and now adventures. Dawn holds a BS in computer science and management and an MBA in management. Dr. Lorraine Richards Usher was born in Costa Rica, Central America. Dr. Usher is an educator for over 30 years now. She's worked in Latin America and the United States. She's passionate about working and developing minds. Currently, she is the principal of the Linden Seventh-day Adventist School, located in Laurelton, New York. Dr. Usher also sits on the board, an active member and a professional facilitator of the For Real Women International Organization for over 13 years. She's married to Dr. Anthony Usher, and together they have 3 young professional sons. Ladies, welcome to Impact and our discussion tonight on remote learning and the impact it has had on our students, our parents, our faculty, and our educational system here in New York City. We're going to go right into our discussion, and I'm going to invite Ashanti first to tell us a little bit about her experience with moving to remote learning and in COVID-19. How has that impacted your learning as a student?
For me, so this is my last year in high school, so I graduate in June. So the transfer, or like the transition, has been kind of like different because, you know, it's something new for all of us. I've never really had online schooling before, so it's something me and my teachers have to get used to. So at first, you know, it tended to be kind of rocky with certain teachers who are kind of older, trying to like figure out how to work certain things, and then some students not being able to join the calls because of certain situations going on. So with me, my transition, like over like over like, you know, the 2 months that we've been doing it so far, I've gotten accustomed to it because it's like kind of like a new way of life that I have to get used to in a sense. So it's like I had no choice but to get used to it. So it's like over time I had to adapt and change myself so I can like pass my classes.
All right. Diane, tell us a little bit about your experience with remote learning and what that was like for you.
Well, it certainly has been a challenge. When we first discovered that this was what was happening, teachers had about 3 days to get themselves together to create student accounts and, to create a Google Classroom. And I tell you, I would not have survived without my dear friend at work who understood the computer well, because that's something that I'm not really good at. So I had to learn in a short time how to do this. And then when home, I was pretty much on my own. So it's not perfect, but I've learned a lot. I'm even able now to help some of my parents who are now recently receiving devices that they're able to log on. I'm able to help them to get their children signed on. And I find that more and more students are joining each day. I am expecting about 110 students. So far I have half. But as I've said, each day we're getting more and more students join, and they look forward to coming on and seeing me, and I look forward to seeing them as well. So we're still learning. We're still learning. I know it's been 2 months, but so far I'm really pleased with the results of how they're learning. They're continuing their learning, and I'm able to support them.
Great. Dawn, tell us a little bit about your experience as a parent and having to transition your children to remote learning and having to encourage them along the way.
It has been extremely challenging. One day, everything was fine, or at least we believe it was fine. And we got the word the Sunday evening that there was no school the next day. And it was just chaotic. That first week with no school wasn't too bad. Following that was a problem when the teachers, and God bless the teachers, they really did an excellent job at getting us the information. But getting up in the morning was an issue with the girls. They are in 2 separate classes with 2 different teachers, and the teachers will give similar assignments, but they're not the same. To be honest, it was really, really bad. Some days I felt like crying because I couldn't get one computer working, I couldn't get the tablet working. It was so hectic. And they had to be on at 9:30 in the morning. At the same time, I'm working full time from home, and I have to be on also at 9 o'clock in the morning. So it was a back and forth struggle. As time went by, I did notice that we were getting a little bit more comfortable, and I was so happy to do a tutorial on Zoom, and I got very excited and comfortable. And that I did this Saturday night. By the Monday morning, we had lost Zoom. So starting from scratch again, not knowing what to do. And I think we went to Google Classroom, something like that. And it was just a whole process. And I had to keep separating the girls because it was a whole starting all over again. And I'm sure a lot of parents went through this, if you have more than one child and you had to set them up in the systems, and each teacher is giving their different codes. Thinking about this is getting me a little stressed, but it went fine. After a while, I was able to go through the process with them. Then what I found that helped me a lot was getting up early in the morning. I get up, early in the sense of starting to work at between 7 and 7:30. And then I could be good until they get up at around 8:30. Then we do a worship. I give them breakfast. And then they're on by 9 o'clock with their classes, and I can be on, go back to work and process like that. It has been challenging, but I do find that when I start the day with worship, it's so much better. It relaxes them, it relaxes me, and we can proceed with the day.
Thank you so very much for that. And we're going to come back to the challenges and some of those suggestions that you expressed in terms of what helped you in managing your day. Dr. Usher, tell us a little bit from your end what that transition was like, moving your students, your faculty from face-to-face instruction to remote distance learning. What was that like?
Excited. Yes, totally. This is an educational shift. And I remember it wasn't so much of a difficult transition because over 2 years now, from grades 4 through grades 8, we actually partially implemented. The kids were working online partially, not in its totality. So they already had their tablets and there are certain assignments and things that was already been placed online for them to do. So what the transition was not really that frustrating. Yes, it was frustrating for grades 1 through grades 3. Um, I remember when the news came on and we are looking at the news and we saw that certain schools was closing down in different states. I remember telling this staff that let's get prepared today. We might be here today, but tomorrow it might be a different story. So what I started doing actually, and some of the teachers, they were so annoyed because it's like I had them staying back after school, just doing training and some of the online platform. For example, Zoom, because I was familiar already with Zoom, because since I'm in an organization, we use that platform a lot. And I was already also familiar with Ring Central. We chose to do the Zoom, so we had them train on the Zoom. And actually, Thursday, Friday, when they trained on the Zoom, that Sunday, I remember the governor saying that the schools are shut down. So basically, Monday, we actually was ready to go on the platform. The parents, they were so excited, but the grades 1 through 3, that's where we had the challenge. Because actually, grades 1 is 7 years. It was a little difficult, but we had a tech on site that actually worked with the parents. At first, the first month was so exciting. Like now, it's not exciting because the kids are tired.
Right.
They want to come back to school. They want to see their classmates. The teachers are getting tired, but this is our new normal, and it is what it is. And what's next? We don't know.
Don't know.
Those are the 3 phrases that we actually using, and we just pushing and doing whatever we can to make the education for our children more beneficial and also helping them to learn as best, making it normal in what is not normal.
That in of itself is really what everyone is trying to do. Make it normal in a non-normal situation.
Exactly.
For our generation, for our children's generation, I can tell you as a parent, I've witnessed the struggle that everyone has spoken about through my daughter. I've done online education for the past 10 years. And I remember when I heard the news that the city was going to remote learning, I was concerned because I knew that when I started, online learning looks completely different from what it was. I was new to it, but because of the type of learner that I am, I was able to really flex with it and become comfortable with doing online learning. But for our children who's been so accustomed to being in the classroom and having that one-on-one interaction with the teachers, knowing that our teachers in their role have been mom, have been dad, have been counselor, have been the one that has provided them with extra meals, have been that friend and that support, it would be difficult to transition our students to remote learning. And I found it difficult trying to even encourage my daughter to get up in the mornings to get to class. You know, I've had to listen to her passionate cry for wanting school to return, for wanting to go back to engaging with her teachers and seeing her friends, and being able to then try to give her some tools to move on. So, what I want us to talk about now is some of the things that we've learned about ourselves, about our children, about education from our experience of transitioning from regular classroom to remote learning. What are some new things we've learned? And I'm going to start with you, Diane. What are some new things you've learned as a teacher?
Well, not being a teacher is that you need to be flexible. And we were really tested in this area of being flexible. So one thing I've learned that I'm taking away from this is that we have to have like a backup, because, you know, we were not completely prepared. We relied on what we were accustomed to for years, just going into the building and using all our supplies we had there. And all of a sudden we were thrown into this new situation where you had to just, you had to be home and use whatever, you have to be really creative. So you need to be flexible. And now because of what we're going through right now, we're going to be better prepared for the future in terms of, you know, the online learning. We're going to have to strengthen that.
Definitely. Ashanti, what have you learned from your experience of becoming a remote distant learner as a student?
With me personally, I learned like I actually could do a lot of things if I put my mind to it, because I was really procrastinating in school, like hard, like really badly, to the point like I was really grinding in remote learning. Like it was so good to me, to the point that my marking period average this marking period is a 98. So it's like, thank you. Like I was working to the point that I was helping other people as well. So it's like I learned like anything you really like, if you're determined to do it, you're gonna get it done. So like me not putting things off to the last minute like I usually do, or having all these outside distractions that I usually have, I don't have it anymore. So I had no choice but to put all my energy and all my effort into online learning. And that's how I got my grades up.
Amen. Congratulations.
That's great.
Thank you.
That's excellent. And Ashanti's experience is not uncommon. I remember speaking to one of Amira's teacher, and she's found that a lot of her students who weren't really doing well started excelling in remote distance learning. And we can theorize that, you know, maybe it's the distractions. Maybe now they've found the inner motivation to move ahead, while she's been struggling with the students who were excelling in face to face, you know, and she doesn't even know why. While we were talking, you know, she found that the common rhythm is that her students who were excelling have become bored with the online remote learning, and you know, and they're struggling with showing up to classes, while the students who weren't really motivated with face to face, who were kind of, you know, procrastinating, as Ashanti said, are now the ones that are leading out in class. And as parents, you hear that and you're like, okay, how can I motivate my student? How can I get them, you know, going? And there are times when I'm sitting here and I'm trying to figure out how to get them going. Dawn, tell us a little bit about what you've learned in this
I have
interesting times.
that teachers and educators are the most wonderful set of people upon the face of the earth. I have learned that their patience is limitless. I have learned that they understand each and every child and their quirks. But the biggest thing for me is their patience, because sometimes, and I have to be honest, one child is very good. When I say good, I mean do your homework, gets it done. The other one, you have to stay over her, watch over her. Did you do it? Did you do it? A million times. I've also learned being locked away at home that there's no privacy. And being in a board meeting or business meeting absolutely means nothing to kids. They will knock on that door, they will come in and they will pop up behind your screen. There's nothing that you can do. And the our I guess our office, they know that we're working remotely and we're going to have interruptions. So they've been allowed for some flexibility with that. But I've also learned sometimes I just have to close my door, and whatever happens outside the door, as long as they're in the apartment and they're not being hurt, it's fine. I was getting up too early in the morning, and I think a lot of parents are going through this. It's like almost like a burnout. I was getting up so early in the morning, sometimes at 6:30, and just saying a quick prayer, going straight to the computer, working until, as I explained before, it's their time. Then after that, after the day is over, let's say at around 6 o'clock, I get off the computer. I try to take them outside, give them a little exercise, on their scooters, whatever. Then we come back in, eat. They have their bath, they go to bed, we worship. 8:30, fine, they're in bed. Okay, that's being optimistic. Let's say 9 o'clock, they're in bed. After that, and they're quiet, I go right back on the computer and I stay there most nights until 11:30, 12. And sometimes you will be getting texts from me at that time because I don't have the time for the social texting and different things in the day. So I have to catch up. I feel necessary for me to catch up on all the work in the day that I should have done that I didn't get the time to do because of the multiple interruptions. So I think teachers are fantastic, and I can't wait for them to have the children again in not a virtual classroom, but a real physical classroom.
Dr. Asha, tell us a little bit
Yes.
of what you've learned and what you've heard from your staff about what they've learned and their experiences.
Yes, I've learned that I actually, to be honest, I I treasure my staff more since this pandemic because I have a group of 18 teachers who actually work from 9 to 6 in the evening because they try to, as Diane said, they become flexible because we have a lot of parents that are frontline workers who are nurses and so forth. A lot of them, what they have to be doing, they don't have anyone to take care of their kids. So they have to, they get up, they will find a friend who's not working that day, take the child to that house, and that particular friend don't even know how to probably log in, how to help the child or whatever. Then they have to wait until the parents come back from work, and that parent and the teacher is in communication, and that teacher would actually accommodate the parents to help the child. I am so pleased with them when it comes to that because they're so flexible with that. Another thing that I learned that all my educators, they have become the greatest researchers because they had to actually beat that internet to find different resources and other platforms where they can go and actually sign up the kids to on different platforms and different with different resources for them to have additional work and to help the kids to navigate whatever concept they want them to learn because it's different teaching online little children than older children. um, I also learned that our parents, all of them are teachers because they had to change profession overnight because they had to, as you're saying, Dawn, they had to actually assist their children with their schoolwork, because it now becomes homeschooling with teachers facilitating the work. That's what it actually is. Nevertheless, as a school, as an administrator, what I constantly do with my parents is that, I would write them on a weekly basis, encouraging them, because it becomes frustrating at times. Um, a lot of them are facing, because all of us this is new for all of us, parents, teachers, students. So we had to educate the parents, we had to educate the children, we also had to educate the staff to work collaboratively for it to happen for our students and for it to move smoothly as well. So we did some sort of connection where I also meet with them online, meet with our parents online, talk to them, keep them calm, because when we're calm, it's easier for us to proceed and to get things done in a more smarter way. So these are the different things that I've seen during this pandemic and what we call the quarantine time and teaching online in helping our children um, navigate this whole situation. It's not
So
easy.
it's not easy, and we're going to get into the discussion about that in and of itself, because when we look at New York City and the fact that the education system in New York City encompasses private, public, charter schools. Our students are from all walks of life. They're from their languages are spread across, because we're not only talking about English learners, but we're talking about
Different cultures.
different cultures. We're talking about individuals who are learning English for the first time as a second
Hmm.
language. We're looking at individuals who are not only dealing with parents who are not here in the country, but they're under the guidance of their, whether it's their grandparents, their aunts, their uncles, their brothers, their sisters. So let's talk about equity and really how it's impacts a learner, because we've Ashanti mentioned it before. Not everyone had access to the internet or technology
Hmm.
to make the transition to remote distance learning. Parents had to learn a new way of instructing their children on the computer system. Teachers did not have who weren't really tech savvy had to become tech savvy within a matter of days. It's not like they had extensive training in these things. How has that impacted our learning community, our boys and girls who are steadfastly looking to graduate, to move to the next grade, have these goals of becoming professionals in whatever chosen career they have in their minds? How has remote learning and COVID-19 impacted our boys and girls? And I'm going to start with you, Dr. Richards, and then anyone else, you guys can chime in as we go along.
Yeah, some of the factors that was very challenging, internet access um, in some parents' homes, devices. Um, we had some parents losing their jobs as well, and it also impacted financial issues in the home to acquire whatever device they would need or implementation of whatever internet that they would need. And we find also that because parents have to go to work, because you still have workers who have essential workers who have to go to work. A lot of the older siblings have to take care of the younger ones. That created a problem also. But in answer to that, I noticed that our federal government have allocated, funds. As I did the research, I saw they allocated over 30 billion in expenditure for to help also with the purchases of technology and and devices to help with the learning on the online form. And also that we have companies like AT&T, Verizon, all of these companies, they all offer help to who have internet in their homes. Those offering unlimited internet. Even though we are a private school, but we're under the school district 29. We we also had access to online and educating our parents that they could apply for these type of services to also help in this situation. So everybody will gather to whatever circumstances that came up out of this sudden shutdown with our schools. So this is what helped a lot of. I had a few parents that actually were able to use these resources that was offered. The only thing is that, when you use the government resources, because we're a private school and we actually do religious subjects, and so you cannot use those devices for those reasons. But we're able to navigate it and basically use it with the core subjects. So parents was very, happy because we have to work it together for this to happen.
Ashanti, tell me what you've seen in terms of how it's affected your classmates, yourself as a learner, in terms of equity and being able to have access to the resources. What do you think has happened for learners?
I know there's a lot of, like, not per se my friends, but I know there's a lot of my peers who still haven't been able to get access to online schooling because, say, like, there's one computer in the home and there's like there's three of them that have to get on at the same exact time, so they don't have the resources to, like, say, like, they split it up, like one gets it this day, another gets it another, and it's like, it's really, that's like, for me that would be very agitating, because knowing I'm also a senior that's trying to pass and that's trying not to get that NX, who's trying to pass and go to college, it's gonna be very frustrating because I can't go and be in class when I need to be, and it's not because I don't want to go, it's because I can't go. So, like, I feel like with the DOE giving out computers and such, that was helpful, but not like, it didn't really account for everyone that's in the household. So, like, it was more of being equal, more than like sense of equity in a sense, like more than equity in a sense. So it's like there's still like a lot of children that haven't been online. So that, like, kind of worries me, because if you don't pass, you don't necessarily pass this semester, you have to go to summer learning. And that might, like, I'm hoping it's not a thing that we have to do summer learning online. But then what happens when you can't get the resources to do summer learning? Then you're just held back a whole year for something that, like, I can't even say could have been avoided, because it's an unprecedented kind of time. So it's just a lot of different factors and a lot of different things happening at the same time, and it's just mind blowing.
Definitely mind blowing, and definitely something that is a concern and continues to be a concern. Um, it's interesting because I remember when the whole platform, the school system moved to remote learning, I remember receiving a phone call, and all I was asked was, do you have access to the internet? Can your child get online? And that was the end of it. I had no knowledge that computers were given away, that you had, as a parent, you would be able to request a computer, or that was even a thing. And I remember saying, well, yes, I do have access and I can get online. Okay, good, great. You're great. You're ready to go. You're set up. Move on. Good luck with remote learning. And had it not been for Amira and one of her friends who, informed her that the school was giving away electronics, we would never have known that that was a resource that was available. So it was mind-boggling for me as a parent, but I was able to call back to the school and say, listen, look, I need access. And we really did need access because there was, I'm at home working from home and needing to use my computer to sign on. And it would have been a struggle because she's in school at the time that I'm online working from home. And, she would have been set back in terms of completing her coursework and everything else. So Dawn, I understand your challenge.
Yes.
In terms of having to sign on and having, needing to have the girls sign on into their class and working at the same time. You need access to devices.
That's true. But there's something that I'm a little surprised that your school did not tell you about the access. We actually were told to report to the school, and when we went to, well, they're only in first grade, at the end of it. So when we went to the school, they had these nice little packages made up, and they said it was one device per family that they were giving out. So we got the iPad and we came home, and then there was a struggle who wanted to use the iPad and who wanted to go on my laptop. And luckily I had another laptop for work. So we worked that way. But then about 3 weeks ago, I think it was, I heard on the news that Mayor de Blasio was saying, oh, they had given out 250,000 iPads. And if you didn't get an iPad, you call right away. And guess what? I called the Monday, and by the Thursday, I had a brand new iPad. Yes, Ashanti, if you know of any student who does not have an iPad, please tell them to call 311. I called 311. As he was saying it on the news, I was calling on the phone because the iPad for that age is easy. They can line their beds and they can, do their work. And if they need any help, just let them call 311. And I actually called, and they led me through the website where you actually request a device. And I got a call 2 days later telling me that, asking me if, for my home address, somebody has to be home. And then they said you would get it within 24 hours. So I really thought that the city came through very well for the families and the parents with getting us the devices that we need for the students.
Absolutely. These are the same experiences that the parents that I've spoken to, that these are the similar experiences that they shared with me. Another thing is, some of them, when they receive the devices, they don't know what to do with it. I've called parents because I haven't seen their students in my classes, and I'm wondering what's going on. And they're telling me, oh, I don't know what to do with it. I don't know. So, there's also help online for that. But, I helped some of them out in whichever way I could.
Diane, they can also call 311 because after there is also a number for a helpline. And I called that number because I was setting it up and something wasn't working correctly. And I called that number I called 311, and they gave me the number for the DOE, that they have like a troubleshooting number, and they walked me through it.
Right, they do have tech support. Even my school has tech support as well. But some parents really didn't even know how to go online to do that. You have to walk them through very slowly. I'm telling you, some parents have no clue. Parents have told me they never even used a computer before. So even doing that, you have to take them through like baby steps. Press the circle for Google. Go to this. You have to walk them through. So even though it's out there and it's available, if you really don't know and have someone there with you helping you personally, it's still a challenge.
It's definitely a challenge.
Yes.
And I think that's what the pandemic in and of itself alerted a lot of us too in terms of the inequity in our education system. You know, while our children have been going to school and our teachers have been doing a fantastic job in delivering curriculum, what we are now what we are now gaining access to is at home. Our adults, our parents are either older and technology has superseded their knowledge, their education. We have parents who, you know, whether they are now returning from home from incarceration, who have not had access to even utilizing, internet, have now had to learn how to use these technologies. We have grandparents who will tell you that, you know, why would I need to use the internet? I have the phone. I can get on and call my children, and yes, I have, I'm in control and I am their guardian, but that's for their time. That's not my time. My time, this is what we did, and they're now thrust into the age of computerism and having to now learn a system that in a couple of months is going to change again, and having to keep a pace of that. And that's what COVID-19 really did. It opened up this breach in terms of the division, because while we here in New York have access to a wide range of resources, and our mayor and our governor has done an excellent job in trying to bring the resources to our students, we do have counties, we do have districts across the United States that have struggled with
Yes.
this transition to remote learning and having access and having students have access to remote learning. And as Ashanti said, there are students that have been missing the entire semester because of where they're residing and what's going on in terms of their ability to access our system. And do we have the answers? We don't have the answers. Are we going to solve it within the next couple of months? We're not, but we're hoping that as we complete the year, that as thinkers and as doers, as we continue to have conversations around these things, that, some small measure of improvement will be made, and, and monies will be spent to give better access to our students to ensure that their learning continues. And, we're all hoping and praying that in some way, shape, or form, we will be able to gather in classrooms, whether it's for a limited amount of time per day to engage in educational settings. So we're going to take a look at our questions again, and we're going to talk about the impact. What do you think, or how do you think our education system will be changing once we've completed this year and we start looking to our next school year? What do you think are some of the changes we're going to see in our education system?
I actually think that one of the changes, one of the bigger changes, I don't know when we're going to be required to return the devices that the schools gave us. I'm assuming at the end of the semester, maybe in the fall. But one of the things that I've been thinking, and I'm sure a lot of parents are thinking, gone are the days of snow days. Because if you have a device and you have access to this device and to schooling, what's the need for a snow day? Everybody has a device at home, snow is outside. Hey, let's just do remote learning for that day. Because the school will give you a robocall. Has everyone been getting these robocalls? They give you a call. They said, shout out to which teacher who had 95% or 99% of attendance. And so it's I think that going forward, everything is going to be so technologically driven that we are going to not rely on the bricks and mortar building that much.
Now you mentioned about the building, and a friend of mine sent me some information about some of the guidelines for reopening the schools, and it seems so. This is from the CDC, it seems so unrealistic. For example, if you're over the age of 2, wear a mask, no sharing of any items. This is within the school now, or supplies or belongings or cubbies, no sharing games, no sharing electronic devices or toys. The desks must be 6 feet apart, okay? 6 feet apart in a classroom of 30 students, okay? All facing the same way, like we did back in the days. Distancing on school buses, 1 child per seat. Skip rows, install sneeze guards and partitions wherever you cannot space 6 feet. One-way routes in the hallway, no using the auditorium, the cafeteria. I don't see how this is going to work with small children. It's pretty scary. I don't see how this is going to work.
That's not realistic. How are we going to have our kids wearing masks all day in a building? And children are children, you know, they need to be socially active. I can't see it either. The big picture that I'm seeing here is that I don't think we are actually going to, that's just my perspective. I don't think we're going to be able to open in the fall. But if we do open, I know that, yes, there are some measures that we have to take, but what it's going to look like, I don't know. It can look like wearing a mask. It can look like testing the temperature of the kids when they come in. It can look like having the desks 6 feet apart. Our school, the classrooms are small. It can look like probably kids not going to the cafeteria, probably eating in the classroom. It could look like so many things. It could look like the alternate days when they go in the building and days when they do online classes. It has many forms in how we can look at it. I don't really know because in reality, and the realistic thing of it for me is that I think we need another season to be quarantined for the children especially. And I would look at it as the fall for the kids to stay home, and then probably the spring to make an attempt to bring the kids them back out. Also, one of the things, it might even look like just the little ones, let's say from first grade to third grade, early childhood in school. From my school, I'm thinking, and probably the others on online platform. If that is happening though, everything will have to be restructured because now parents have to go to work. So even that will have to be restructured for the parents to stay home to take care of the kids while they're working. So it's so many things it entails. And one of the things I'm looking at is that I'm seeing that several colleges and universities are planning not to open in the fall. So if the older students cannot be on campus, why the little babies are going to be on campus? You know, it's so many things. And we only have 2 months to actually decide these things to make it actually be safe for our children. So I don't know. I really don't know what it's going to look like.
Ashanti, what do you think in terms of changes? What do you see as changes to our educational system? What do you think our future looks like?
So with this like pandemic, it's such an unprecedented time. Like you can't really even imagine what's gonna happen. Like what Sister Usher said, like there's so many different scenarios that could happen. And it's like I was actually saying to my mom, like I really do like online school because I kind of low key pick my own schedule. So kind of like that. But I haven't been around other people, and you need to be around other people for you to, I feel like to be in a classroom, that's when you efficiently learn. because that's how you bounce your ideas off of every like, you know, other people in other circumstances. But it's like with the pandemic, there's no knowing, like, what if school continues to be online for not just the fall semester but the spring semester as well. Like, we don't know when it's going to end, or like when we get there, like when we like my the college that I got accepted to and I committed to, it doesn't, like the first like when we get on campus is October 5th. So that's really so far different from going, you know, moving date in August. So it's like totally different, and then you're pushing back the semesters, and it's just so many different things to like really try to wrap your mind around, because it's not going to be the same learning experience it was before. Because now there's certain people, it's like, you know, you can't be too close to certain people, and then other people, they don't mind if you're that close to them. So it's going to be so different, because now I'm going to be on a campus when there's more than 1,000, like more than 10,000 people there, and it's like, how do we social distance? So it's going to be so different, because you don't know who has whatever. You don't want to catch whatever. You want to stay healthy. So it's like so many different ways so many different scenarios they could come up with, but we will never know what it's going to be like until it happens.
That's right. It's an unprecedented future for our children. I think our young ones are being educated very early on what our future may eventually look like, which is entirely online education. For our college students, many of them are being cheated out of that experience of living on campus, because many of the colleges are going to fully remote distance learning, where even if you do come in as a out of state student, you're placed in a dorm room by yourself. And all of your classes are online, and the only time you enter in onto campus is if you have to do labs, or you are expected to do some form of experimental learning in terms of the counseling field or psychology or biology. So our college students are entering into remote learning and having to do it alone. And it can become very lonely when doing distance learning, because you are in front of that computer by yourself. As a college student, you are trying to figure out the concepts that are being asked of you alone, and you're thrust into this academic world of thinking. And while your professors are there to support you, they're not always readily available, because they're also professionals on the outside. They also have a timeline in terms of their turnaround with all of the students that they're doing. So our college students have a mountain to face in terms of their transition to remote learning. Our high school students are, now placed in a position where they're entering their last year. For those who are returning in September, they're concerned about whether or not they'll be able to finish their last year of high school. We have eighth graders who are trying to figure out what their eighth grade year is going to look like, because they're trying to figure out high school and where they're going and what that's going to look like. Our kindergartners are going back to first grade. Every grade is moving up, and no one knows what that grade or that year is going to look like. And our education system has changed. We're not going to go back.
There's a shift.
There's a shift. Our education system has changed. Remote learning in some way, shape, or form is here to stay.
Exactly.
And I also think there's something that we're not looking at, the isolation factor of children.
It's very isolated.
It's really bad because even this week I got a call, actual call from the teacher, and she said to me, you have to speak to Safia and tell her, please do not go back on to the link, because apparently what they've been doing is trying to connect with their classmates and go back on the link after the teacher comes off. And sometimes I hear them talking. I'm like, who are you talking to? Oh, I'm talking to a friend. But the teachers don't want them to be on the link unless someone is supervising. So then we tell them to come off, but these are students who are also feeling this change, this disconnection with others. And it for the students who are older, we also have to look at them very carefully and monitor them, because isolation can lead to a lot of problems and mental issues. When you're isolated, you can get desperate. And we have to make sure that our young people know that they're surrounded with love. And if they're having a problem or an issue, they can reach out to us. We're happy to speak to them at any time. And those who are professional counselors, we have to set up some type of a helpline for our young people so that they know they can contact us if they're feeling isolated, desperate, rejected, anything like that.
I receive information on a daily basis because our school is part of the school safety thing. So we receive email on a daily basis. And one of the things that the CDC is predicting, and it's going to be a high volume of suicidal students, suicidal. So they're saying that when the students return back in September to school, that we have to have people that deals with mental illness personnel on site to kind of detect these type of things from our kids, because they're saying that right now they're expecting a tsunami of mental health issues in our young children. So that is just serious, because we were actually created to be social,
That's
and
right.
right now our kids are not experiencing that, because even in the homes, if there are other children in the homes, as parents, I don't think that we are providing that space to connect even with the family. Our children are not only experiencing this withdrawal from their peers, they're also experiencing it from the family within the homes, because everybody is in the same space right now. What is happening to our families? There's a lot of abuse going on in our families, emotional, verbal and physical abuse going on. Father, mother, if there's no father in the home, whoever is in the home, because of the high volume of stress, and people are not working, and difficulties that is going on right now in the homes, we find that there's a high volume of disconnect in the home and a lot of fight within the home itself. So the children are going through a lot, and they actually do not understand what is going on. And our parents need to be actually educated on that, because our children go through different developmental stages. So every child cannot have the same information in regards to the COVID-19 or to what we're going through, because they process information, the age group process the information differently. So if you have a child between 0 to 2 years old, there's not much information we should give that child. We should just share, okay, schools are closed, parks are closed, we're staying home because we need to be safe. Period. We don't need to go and explain any other information, because they're not going to receive it. Even us as adults, we're not even receiving it well. How we expect a child between 0 to 2 years to actually understand exactly what is going on? So there are different measures as to how we can share that information. So if we have, let's say, children between 3 to 6 years old, information that we can share is that, schools are closed, parks are closed. Us as parents, we're working from home. You are working from home as well, because all of us, we're trying to stay safe. And that is why mommy, daddy is home, mommy is home. All of us were home because we're trying to stay safe. Do you want to be safe at home? Yes, they understand that. We dwell on that. and create a space for, it is important to create a space for our children, because since everybody's home, even if it's one bedroom, one room we have in the home, create a space. Every corner is a space for everybody. So the children have their corner that is school. Parents, you have your corner where you're working. So nobody cross nobody's boundaries, because you're in school. So you get up, what time you have to go to school, that's your school. You go to school, parents go to work in your corner. There must be, in my school, we follow a schedule. So we have the kids do a lunch break time. At the lunch break time, you can meet with your kids because we're at lunchtime and we have fun, whatever, and everybody go back to their space. You cannot come into my space because you cannot come to my work. I don't go in your space because I cannot go and walk into your school like that. We have to create those type of things in their minds, especially younger children, for them to kind of understand the process. And yes, we cannot just bow them down and cover them down with schoolwork and getting this done. That is good, okay, but there must be a limit, because what happened? They also need to have recreation. They need to have fun time. Let it be a pleasant time for them so that they can stay mentally healthy. And also, that is important for us to stay mentally healthy. We can open up a platform for ourselves where we sit down, just like what we're doing right now, and meet with the other families or with their little friends. Let the little friends come on, because we have free Zoom right now. You can have up to 40 minutes. Let their little friends that come on and they see each other and talk to each other. That 30 minutes, it makes a big difference for them. So it's just a matter of being creative. And this is what COVID-19 should bring out of all of us, just to be creative, be much smarter, and think on the big picture. Because what? We are not going back to that normal that we call normal. This is the new normal. So we got to shift our brain right now and just accept it, because it is what it is. What next? We don't know. That's it.
Now, there's something else that COVID-19 brought out
Yes.
in me that I didn't know. I am cooking more now and feeding more. It's like every moment they want to eat something. Before it was get up, go to the school, you have breakfast there, you have lunch there, and think about anything but dinner. Now I have to do breakfast, lunch, dinner, and they expect snacks.
Yes.
What is this? And
I
Any
put
other
on some good
suggestions?
pounds too.
this is what I want for lunch.
Right.
No, you're having for lunch what mommy puts on the table.
So we've heard suggestions. Dawn, you mentioned having that worship period with the children when they get up, when they go to sleep. Sister Usher reminded us of being able to create spaces, workspace, school space, being able to allow the children to have that time to be just themselves, have fun, that down period. And that's something that my daughter reminded me of, that, we can't be in school every day, every day, every day and not have that down period. We need the down period. Any other suggestions that we can do to help our children manage during this time, because we're not going back? We can only move forward. And
That's
that's what
it.
God is asking us to do, is to move forward. Take it, move forward, and help us in, because we now have to help our children move forward. So what else can we do to help our children move forward? As we come close, we've had a wonderful discussion, but I want us to be able to leave the audience with some manageable tools that they can use at home. We've given them structure in terms of, don't forget the spiritual aspect of family worship. You need family worship. You need your separate times. As parents, we need our downtime, dawn, where we can get on the computer and talk to our friends. Our children also needs that. Diane, any other suggestions you have for us?
Well, I just wanted to just thank Dawn for bringing up this issue, and Sister Usher for what you shared with us. I think basically I just want to reemphasize the importance of communication I think
Yes.
at this point, because children, adults as well, we need that support, and for people not to be afraid to reach out for the support. It's there. Call on a
Yes.
friend if you're feeling, any kind. Call on a friend. There's so much available on the internet. There's so many services out there. Even on the DOE, you can start from there. On Google, one of my very good friends, Google. There's so much out there. So this is issues of great concern, because some things we cannot see, what's
Mm-hmm.
going on emotionally. So it's so important to maintain communications. We want to encourage the young people to avail themselves of, like Sabbath School, Pathfinders, Adventurers, all these programs that are out there, instead of shutting themselves away. I mean, even myself, I constantly encourage my children to participate in these things, because that will help to keep them, and not for them to feel isolated, because it can really, really affect them in, this way. So thank you so much for sharing.
Ashanti, one last word. What are your recommendations, suggestions in terms of motivating and helping your peers manage the time? What are some of your recommendations?
Make a schedule.
Hey.
Like a schedule is
Yes.
really, it doesn't have to be like down packed, but I know my schedule. I wake up at 9, do like, I have classes till like 10:30. Then I go bother my grandma, where she's like, you're just a wake up type of thing every day with her, even though I know I've been up for a while, but it's okay. And then, I look forward to watching movies with my grandma, like the whole day basically. And
Mm-hmm.
then I feel like with quarantine, it's not the same for all families, but I know with my family, even though like we've become so close during this quarantine time, even though my
Yes.
mom is an essential worker, she's a nurse, so she's not home all the time. But we've become so much closer because we're literally seeing each other every day and we can't escape each other. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like with me, what I what I learned when what I was doing, I was trying to lock myself in my room because I was going through a really dark period, and I was going through a dark period of time in my life, and I was just locking myself in the room, and then I didn't want to talk to my family. But when I started going to them more and going to them with my problems, I felt like it was a heavy weight lifted off my shoulders. Because my mom is like, you don't always have to carry the weight of the weight of the world on your shoulders all the time. You could come talk to me. You could come talk to us, and it's like that's the reassurance I needed. Even though I knew it in the back of my mind, her saying it to me was such like it just made me happy. So I feel like with your children, like keep even though your child or your children might not want to talk to you all the time, don't try to push it in, but like try to like I'm here for you type thing because it really does go a long way. Even though they might not react to it in the first half, they're gonna keep replaying that when they're really stuck and they're like, maybe I can go talk to my mom. Maybe I can go talk to grandma. And then it's like me and my family having our schedule, sometimes we go to the park. It's not a perfect schedule, but we spend time together. So that family time does work. My family knows don't bother me before 10:30 and we're good. The rest of the day I'm yours type of thing. So that's just, have a schedule.
Can I just leave this acronym? The acronym CLEAR. It's easy to remember. C for connection. So we get up in the morning, the family, and we connect. The family, and then we connect to God. Then the L is for limit. As I mentioned, everybody go in their space. The E is for empowerment. Empower each other on a daily basis. Empower your children, empower each other, teach them how to empower you back. The A is for accountability. They have their work to do, they have to be accountable for it. Mommy have her work to do, she has to be accountable for it. And then the R, to reconnect. Reconnect back in the evening. When the day work is over, then we sit as a family, reconnect. How was your day? Even though we spend the entire day in the home, but we reconnect as if we went out and we're coming back home. And just try that, because I equate COVID-19 to the word pause. We're in a pause right now where we are going to be reflecting to actually establish back and bring back the family together. Because when we were in our normal, as we say, everybody was running. 'Cause this is New York. You get up and you're running all day. When you come home, it's like you press the brakes and you sit down, tired. You barely say something and everybody in their room to bed. But this is a pause time for us to reflect. So if we can reconnect back every evening and connect in the mornings. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies, for being a part of our series today. We've learned that we definitely need to reestablish our family worship services in the morning and the afternoon. We've been given this beautiful acronym CLEAR to help us in reconnecting as a family. Ashanti, you've reminded us the importance of having a schedule and sticking to that schedule and reaching out, communication. In such a time as this, the resources are there. You can call your first elder. You can call your church system, the Department of Education. For those of you who have never gone onto the Department of Education, I tell you, go onto the Department of Education's website here in New York. There are tons of resources to help not only our parents but our students in coping during this time. There are letters. If you've never received a letter, all of the letters from the chancellor to the families are there online. You can read it. You can know what's going on and the fact that they're still working on strategies to help our children come through this semester and ensuring that they are academically ready for the next year. Electronics is still available. The city still has electronics available. So if you don't have access, still call 311. You can also go onto the Department of Education's website and request your devices because they're still available. So it's there. We're there to support you as a church. We will continue our Impact series. And for those of you who tuned in to the Healing Hope series last night, our scripture reading was Isaiah 45, verse 2. And I end tonight's session with that verse. And it says, I will go before thee, and I will make the crooked places straight. I will break in pieces the gates of brass, and cut in asunder the bars of iron. Remember, at all times, Jesus is before us, he's beside us, he is after us, and he's always with us. If we connect and reconnect as we've been advised by Dr. Usher, we will continue to survive and move forward after everything has settled with COVID-19. Thank you once again, Ashanti, Diane, Dawn, Dr. Usher. Thank you once again for being a part of this series. And should we call on you guys again in the future to do another session, we'll let you know. If questions do come up, we'll let you know. But at this time, we're going to close with prayer. And I'm going to invite Ashanti to please pray for us as we end our session tonight.
Dear Heavenly Father, watch over everyone in this call. Watch over everyone's family in this call, whether they made it to the call or not. I thank you for keeping us safe during this unprecedented time and showed us that we must keep our faith strong in you, because this is something we haven't seen before, and we have no choice but to put all our trust into you. Lord, I ask you to make us remember everything that we learned from this call today. Remember to clear our minds and keep on using that acronym to better ourselves during this time. Lord, I ask you to cover everyone that's going through a dark time and let them remember that there's someone that they can talk to, because you have given us those resources. Lord, I ask you to continue to bless us in the ways you have blessed us before. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 Thank you, and have a good night, everyone.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good seeing you.